Hello, guys and gals, and this is part 6 of a reading of The Last Unicorn by Peter Beagle. If you can't hear it, it is raining outside, and so there is that. But anyways, this is part 6, and in the last, I believe it's been a while since I read this book, but in the last episode, Schmendrick was captured by brigands, bandits, whatever you want to call them. Men of ill repute, or barbarians, or something like that. And they met Molly Grew, I believe it was Molly Grew. And so, yeah, Schmendrick got on the bandit leader's good side by asking him about his, all these fanciful stories about him, because he's really famous. He's like a hero in his own mind or something. Anyways, we are going to pick up here. I don't remember exactly where we left off, so we're probably going to have to reread some of this. Okay, well, we are going to see here. We were going to start right here. Captain Colley. Let me move the bookmark out of the way. There we go. Captain Colley grinned and laid his arm warily along the woman's sharp shoulders. "Ah, that's only Molly Grew's way," he explained. "She guards me better than I do myself. I am generous and easy, to the point of extravagance. Perhaps an open hand to all fugitives from tyranny. That's my motto. It's only natural that Molly should become suspicious, pinched, dour, prematurely old, even a touch tyrannical. The bright balloon needs the knot at one end, eh, Molly? But she's a good heart. A good heart." The woman shrugged herself away from him, but the captain did not turn his head. "You are welcome here, Sir Sorcerer," he told Schmendrick. "Come to the fire and tell us your tale. How do they speak of me in your country? What have you heard of dashing Captain Colley and his band of freemen? Have a taco." Schmendrick accepted his place by the fire, gracious, gelid muscle, and replied, "I have heard that you are the friend of the helpless and the enemy of the mighty, and that you and your merry men lead a joyous life in the forest, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. I know the tale of how you and Jack Jingley cracked one another's crowns with quarterstaffs and became blood brothers thereby, and how you saved your Molly from marriage to a rich old man her father had chosen for her. In fact, Schmendrick had never heard of Captain Colley before that very evening, but he had a good grounding of Anglo-Saxon folklore and knew the type, and of course he hazarded. "There was a certain wicked king, Haggard. Rot and ruin him," Colley cried. "Aye, there's not one here but's been done wrong by old King Haggard. Driven from his rightful land, robbed of his rank and tents, skinned out of his patrimony. They live only for revenge. Mark you, magician, and one day Haggard will pay such a reckoning." A score of shaggy shadows hissed assent, but Molly Grew's laughter fell like hail, rattling and stinging. "Mayhaps he will," she mocked, "but it won't be to such clattering clavens. He'll pay it. His castle rots and totters more each day, and his men are too old to stand up in armor. But he'll rule forever, for all Captain Colley dares." Schmendrick raised an eyebrow, and Colley flushed radish red. "You must understand," he mumbled. "King Haggard has this bull." "Ah, the Red Bull. The Red Bull," Molly hooted. "I tell you what, Colley, after all these years in the woods with you, I've come to think the bull's not but a pet name you give your cowardice. If I hear that fable one more, I'll go and down old Haggard myself. I know you for enough," Colley roared. Not before strangers." He tugged at his sword, and Molly opened her arms to it, still laughing. Around the fire, greasy hands twiddled dagger hilts, and longbows seemed to string themselves. But Schmendrick spoke up then, seeking to salvage Cully's sinking vanity. He hated family scenes. "They sing a ballad of you in my country," he began. "I forget just how it goes. Captain Cully spun like a cat, ambushing its own tail." "Which one?" he demanded. "I don't know," Schmendrick answered, taken aback. "Is there more than one?" "Aye, indeed," Cully cried, glowing and growing, as though pregnant with his pride. Willie Gentle, where is the lad?" A lank-haired youth with a lute and pimples shambled up. "Sing one of my exploits for the gentleman," Captain Cully ordered him. "Sing the one about how you joined my band. I've not heard it since Tuesday last." The minstrel sighed, struck a chord, and began to sing in a wobbly counter tenor. "Oh, it was Captain Cully came riding home from slaying of..." Oh, wait a minute. "Oh, it was Captain Cully came riding home from slaying the king's gay deer. When whom should he spy but a pale young man came drooping o'er the lea." Is that Lee? I think that's Lee. What news, my pretty young man? What ails ye that ye sigh so deep? Is it for the loss of your lady fair, or are you but scabbit in your geep?" "I am nae scabbit, whatever that means, and my geep is as well as a greep may be, but I do sigh for my lady fair, whom my 3 brothers ha driven from me. I am Captain Cully of the sweet green wood, and the men at my call are fierce and free. If I do rescue your lady fair, what service do ye render me?" "If ye do rescue my lady fair, I will break your nose, you silly odd gawk." But she wore an emerald at her throat, which me 3 brothers also took. When the captain had gone to the three bold thieves, and he's made his sword bathe to shiver and sing, "Ye may keep the lass, but I'll ha the stain, for it's fit for a crown of a royal king." Okay, now let's read this next line. There we go. "Now comes the best part," Cully whispered to Schmendrick. He was bouncing eagerly on his toes, hugging himself. "Then his 3 cloaks off, and his 3 swords out, and his 3 swords whistling like the tea. By the faith of my body," said Captain Cully, "now ye shall have neither the stain nor she." And he's driven them up, and he's driven them down, and he's driven them to and fro like sheep. "Like sheep?" Cully breathed. He rocked and hummed and parried 3 swords with his forearm for the remaining 17 stanzas of the song, rapturously oblivious to Molly's mockery and the restlessness of his men. The ballad ended at last, and Schmendrick applauded loudly and earnestly, complimenting Willie Gentle on his right hand technique. "I call it Alanadale picking," the minstrel answered. He would have expounded further, but Cully interrupted him, saying, "Good Willie, good boy. Now play the others." He beamed at what Schmendrick hoped was an expression of pleased surprise. "I said that there were several songs about me. There are 31 to be exact, though none are in the child collection just at present." His eyes widened suddenly, and he grasped the magician's shoulder. "You wouldn't be Mr. Child himself, now would you?" he demanded. "He often goes seeking ballads, so I've heard, disguised as a plain man." Schmendrick shook his head. "No, I'm very sorry, really." The captain sighed and released him. "It doesn't matter," he murmured. "One always hopes, of course, even now, to be collected, to be verified, annotated, to have variant versions, even to have one authentically doubted. Well, never mind. Sing the other songs, Willie lad. You'll need the practice one day when you're field recorded. The outlaws grumbled and scuffed, kicked at stones, and a hoarse voice bawled from a safe shadow. Nah, Willie, sing us a true song. Sing us one about Robin Hood. Who said that? Colley's loosened sword clacked in its sheath. As he turned from side to side, his face suddenly seemed as pale and weary as he used lemon drop. I did, said Molly Grew, who hadn't. The men are bored with ballads of your bravery, Captain Darling, even if you did write them all yourself. Colley winced and stole a side glance at Smendrick. They can still be folk songs, can't they, Mr. Child? He asked in a low, worried voice. After all, I'm not Mr. Child, Smendrick said. Really, I'm not. I mean, you can't leave epic events to the people. They get everything wrong. An aging rogue in tattered velvet now slunk forward. Captain, if we're to have folk songs, and I suppose we must, then we feel they ought to be true songs about real outlaws, not this lying life we live. No offense, Captain, but we're really not very merry. When all's said, I'm married 24 hours a day, Dick Fancy, Colley said coldly. That's a fact. And we don't steal from the rich and give to the poor. Dick Fancy hurried on. We steal from the poor because they can't fight back, most of them, and the rich take from us because they could wipe us out in a day. We don't rob the fat, greedy mayor on the highway. We pay him tribute every month to leave us alone. We never carry off proud bishops and keep them prisoner in the wood, feasting and entertaining them because Molly hasn't any good dishes, and besides, we just wouldn't be very stimulating company for a bishop. When you go to the fair in disguise, we never win at the archery or at single stick. We don't get some nice compliments out of our disguises, but no more than that. Oh, we do get some nice compliments on our disguises, but no more than that. I sent a tapestry to the judging once, Molly remembered. It came in fifth, a night at vigil. Everyone was doing vigils that year. Suddenly she was scrubbing her eyes with horny knuckles. Darn you, Colley. What? He yelled in exasperation. Is it my fault you didn't keep up with your weaving? Once you had your man, you let all your accomplishments go. You don't sew or sing anymore. You haven't illuminated a manuscript in years. And what happened to the viola da gamba I got you? He turned to Smendrick. We might as well be married. The way she's gone to seed. The magician nodded fractionally and looked away. As for righting wrongs and fighting for civil liberties, that sort of thing. Oh, and for fighting wrongs and fighting for civil liberties, that sort of thing, Dick Fancy said. It wouldn't be so bad. I mean, it's not the crusade type. I'm not the crusade type myself. Some are and some aren't. But then we have to sing those songs about wearing Lincoln green and aiding the oppressed. We don't, Colley. We turn them in for the reward, and those songs are just embarrassing. That's all that there's. Oh, that's all. And there's the truth of it. Okay, let me see. I need to. Captain Colley folded his arms, ignoring the outlaw's snarls of agreement. Sing the songs, Willie. I'll not. The minstrel would not raise a hand to touch his lute. And you never fought my brothers for any stone, Colley. You wrote them a letter, which you didn't sign. Colley drew back his arm, and blades blinked among the men, as though someone had blown on a heap of coals. At this point, Smendrick stepped forward again, smiling urgently. If I may offer an alternative, he suggested, why not let your guest earn his night's lodging by amusing you? I can neither sing nor play, but I have my own accomplishments, and you may not have seen their like. Jack Jingley agreed immediately, saying, "Aye, Collie, a magician. 'Twould be a rare treat for the lads." Molly Grew grumbled some savage generalizations about wizards as a class, but the men shouted with quick delight, throwing one another into the air. The only reluctance was shown by Captain Collie himself, who protested sadly, "Yes, but the songs, Mr. Child. Must hear the songs." "And so I will," Schmidrika assured him. Later, Collie brightened then and cried to his men to give way and make room. They sprawled and squatted in the shadows, watching with sprung grins as Schmidrik began to run through the old flummeries which he had entertained the country folk at the midnight carnival. It was paltry magic, but he thought it diverting enough for such a crew as Collie's. But he had judged them too easily. They applauded his rings and scarves, his ears full of goldfish and aces, with a proper politeness, but without wonder. Offering no true magic, he drew no magic back from them. And when a spell failed, as when promising to turn a duck into a duke for them to rob, he produced a handful of duke cherries. He was clapped just as kindly and vacantly as though he'd succeeded. They were a perfect audience. Collie smiled impatiently, and Jack Jingley dozed, but it startled the magician to see the disappointment in Molly Grew's restless eyes. Sudden anger made him laugh. He dropped 7 spinning balls that had been glowing brighter and brighter as he juggled them. On a good evening, he could make them catch fire. Let go all his hated skills, and closed his eyes. Do as you will," he whispered to the magic. "Do as you will." It sighed through him, beginning somewhere secret in his shoulder blades, perhaps, or in the marrow of his shin bone. His heart filled and tautened like a sail, and something moved. More surely it was his body something moved more surely in his body than he ever had. It spoke with his voice, commanding. Weak with power, he sank to his knees and waited to be Schmidrik again. Okay, let's see what's next. "I wonder what I did. I did something." He opened his eyes. Most of the outlaws were chuckling and tapping their temples, glad for a chance to mock him. Captain Collie had risen, anxious to pronounce that part of the entertainment ended. Then Molly Grew cried out in a soft, shaking voice, and all turned to see what she saw. A man came walking into the clearing. He was dressed in green, but for a brown jerkin and a slanting brown cap with a woodcock feather in it. He was very tall, too tall for a living man. The great bow slung over his shoulder looked as long as Jack Jingley, and his arrows would have made spears or staves for Captain Collie. Taking no notice at all of the still shabby forms by the fire, he strode through the night and vanished with no sound of breath or footfall. After him came others, one at a time, or two together, some conversing, many laughing, but none making any sound, all carrying longbows, and all wore green, save one who came clad in scarlet to his toes, and another crowned in a friar's brown habit, his feet in sandals, and his enormous belly contained by a rope belt. One played the lute and sang silently as he walked. Alana Dale. It was raw. Alana Dale. It was raw, Willie gentle. Look at those changes. His voice was as naked as a baby bird. Effortlessly proud, graceful as giraffes, even the tallest among them, a kind-eyed blunderbore. The bowmen moved across the clearing last, hand in hand. Clearing at last, hand in hand, came a man and a woman. Their faces were as beautiful as though they had never known fear. The woman's heavy hair shone with a secret, like a cloud that hides the moon. "Oh," said Molly Grew, "Marian." "Robin Hood is a myth," Captain Colley said nervously. "A classic example of the heroic folk figures synthesized out of need. John Henry is another man. Men have to have heroes, but no man can ever be as big as they need, and so a legend grows around a grain of truth, like a pearl. Not that it isn't a remarkable trick, of course." It was the seedy dandy Dick Francis who moved first. All the figures, but the last two had passed into the darkness, when he rushed after them, calling hoarsely, "Robin, Robin, Mr. Hood, sir, wait for me." Neither the man nor the woman turned, but every man in Colley's band, saving only Jack Jingley and the captain himself, ran to the clearing's edge, tripping and trampling over one another, kicking the fire, so that the clearing churned with shadows. "Robin," they shouted, and "Marian, Scarlet, Little John, come back, come back." Schmendrick began to laugh tenderly and helplessly. Over their voices, Captain Colley screamed, "Fools, fools, and children." It was a lie, like all magic. There is no such person as Robin Hood. But the outlaws, wild with loss, went crashing into the woods after the shining archers, stumbling over logs, falling through thorn bushes, wailing hungrily as they ran. Only Molly Grew stopped and looked back. Her face was burning white. "Nay, Colley, you have it backwards," she called to him. There's no such a person as you or me or any of us. Robin and Marian are real, and we are the legend. Then she ran on, crying, "Wait, wait," like the others, leaving Captain Colley and Jack Jingley to stand in the trampled firelight, and listen to the magician's laughter. Schmendrick hardly noticed when they sprang on him and seized his arms, nor did he flinch when Colley pricked his ribs with a dagger, hissing, "That was a dangerous diversion, Mr. Child, and rude as well. You could have said you didn't want to hear the songs." The dagger twitched deeper. Far away he heard Jack Jingley's growl, He's not Child Colley, nor is he any journeyman wizard. Neither I know him now. He's Haggard's son, the Prince Lear, as foul as his father, and doubtless handy with the black arts. "Hold your hand, Captain. He's no good to us dead." Colley's voice drooped. "Are you sure, Jack? He seems such a pleasant fellow." "Pleasant fool, you mean?" Lear has that air, I've heard tell. He plays the gormless innocent, but he's the devil for deception. The way he gave out to be this child cove, just to get you off your guard." "I wasn't off my guard, Jack," Colley protested. "Not for a moment. I may have seemed to, but I'm very deceptive myself. And the way he called up Robin Hood to fill the lads with longing and turn them against you. Ah, but he gave himself away that time, and now he'll bide with us, though his father sent the Red Bull to free him." Colley caught his breath at that, but the giant stretched around it. Schmendrick giggled gently all the time that night, and bore him to a great tree, where he bound him with his face to the trunk and his arm stretched around it. Schmendrick giggled gently, although the operation and made matters easier by hugging the tree as fondly as a new bride. "There, Jack," Jingley said at last. "Do ye guard him the night, Colley. while I sleep, and in the morning it's me to old Haggard to see what this boy's worth to him. Happen we'll all be gentlemen of leisure in a month's time. What of the men? Collie asked worriedly. Will they come back, do you think? The giant yawned and turned away. They'll be back by morning, sad and sneezing, and you'll have to be easy on them for a bit. They'll be back, for they'm not the sort to trade something for nothing, and no more, and no more am I. Robin Hood might have stayed for us if we were good. If we were. Good night to ye, Captain. There was no sound when he was gone but crickets and Smendrick's soft chuckling to the tree. The fire faded, and Cully turned in circles, sighing as each ember went out. Finally sat down on a stump and addressed the Captain Magician. Haggard's son you may be, he mused, and not the collector child, as you claim. But whoever you are, you know very well that Robin Hood is the fable and I am the reality. No ballads will accumulate around my name unless I write them myself. No children will read of my adventures in their school books and play at being me after school. And when the professors prowl through the old tales, the scholars sift the old songs to learn if Robin Hood ever truly lived. They will never find my name, not till they crack the world for the grain of its heart. But you know, and therefore I am going to sing you the songs of Captain Colley. He was a good gay rascal who stole from the rich and gave to the poor. In their gratitude, the people made up these simple verses about him, whereupon he sang them all, including the one that Willie Gentle had sung for Spendrick. He paused often to comment on the varying rhythm patterns and asonado rhymes and the modal melodies. And I believe that we will quit it. We'll leave it right here at chapter 6. We have been reading from... Okay, wait, let me put this in first. We are to page 61. That's good. Okay. We've been reading from The Last Unicorn by Peter Beagle. This has been episode 6, I believe. And so, yeah, if you like this content, make sure you like and subscribe and ring the bell so you know when I upload. And if you want to support me in any way at all, make sure you check out the description. Also, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.